Hello and welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. I am today your host, Dan Potts. Fergus is not in the house. I don't know if he's going to join us. The control freak that he is, sometimes he does jump on, but it seems today that it will just be me and one more Guns and Yellow Ribbons panelist. We're going to do another 1 to 11 today, guys. So the international break is here, which normally is depressing, but for me, it's actually quite exciting because it means that I get a break from Arsenal at the moment because it has been so stressful. So joining me today is someone you all know and haven't probably seen for a few weeks because he's been busy. He's a brilliant musician, great, normally gigging. If he's not watching Arsenal, he's normally at a gig. Massive fan of Arsenal's youth and is always watching Arsenal youth team games and telling us all how fantastic our youth side is. So please welcome Big Steve. Steve,
Yeah,
how are you, man?
yeah, not too bad. I'm glad it's international break, but at the same time, I'm not. I think it's the same
Man.
with everyone. You sort of want to see Arsenal, but the way it's been at the moment, it's nice not to have that frustration on a Saturday or Sunday evening.
Absolutely. Mate, you're more of a rugby man when it comes to England. Do you watch England football-wise or not?
Not a lot, not a lot.
We won't go into rugby, mate, but
No.
no, we won't go into rugby. We'll keep it to it. We're doing a 1 to 11, mate. You're a little bit younger than me. I don't like to shout that out too loud, but you've got some Arsenal players. How difficult was this for your 1 to 11, mate? Because you've changed it around a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, it was quite difficult because for me, I dipped in and out of football. I was always, I can remember playing in the back garden with my brother. I was probably 5 or 6, and he'd be Vieira, I'd be Overmars, or he'd be Bergkamp,
Okay.
and I'd be Tony Adams, or we'd all pick an Arsenal player, and we'd play against each other. So I always remember the names, and Henri and Kanu were two of the reasons why I got into football. And I remember one year I asked for a Kanu shirt, and I never got it, but I used to have a little bit of an obsession about Kanu, and I can't even remember why, but I just remember it was there, and then was sort of in and out of enjoying football, and then got back into it sort of around the Invincible times. I remember watching quite a lot then, and really liking Vieira and really liking Henri, obviously. And then 2006, after the Champions League final, I was already getting into rugby at that point, and my interest just went, because if you were an Arsenal fan at school, we were getting ripped to shreds. So I just sort of really kept my head down, buried my head in the sand, and it wasn't until a good few years after, I sort of started getting back into football properly. So obviously the rules being you have to have seen them or have proper memories. I think that even though I could have put in the likes of Lundberg or Kanu, Henri, Vieira, I missed quite a few of the Invincible bunch out simply because I don't remember clearly enough seeing them.
Well, listen, this is your all-time 1 to 11. So I can sit there and say how fantastic players like Liam Brady were, but I didn't see him, so I couldn't pick him.
That's exactly it.
You see what I mean? So in your case, it's exactly the same. So this is your all-time 1 to 11, mate. We're going to start off with your goalkeeper. How tough was this one? You've gone for an absolute Arsenal legend, so I'll let you take over. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, this one wasn't as tough, really. For me, it was always a shoo-in, and that's Jens Lehmann, the madman.
It was.
He was an invincible. Obviously, I think going back, if you could pick out of anyone, I would have gone for Seaman. But the fact that I don't remember enough of Seaman it was always going to be Lehmann. We've had some pony keepers since Lehmann, and that's putting it nicely. We've had Flapianski, we've had Almunia. Szczesny. I think Szczesny or Leno would have been on about the same level behind him for me. But yeah, it has to be Lehmann. And what I remember mostly was obviously him being sent off in the Champions League final. But also when he returned, I remember because I'd got back into Arsenal at that point, and I had a couple of Arsenal mates at school. And when he was put in the lineup, I think it was against Blackpool or Blackburn, we had a little bet. It was only a fiver, but it was like, oh, bet he keeps a clean sheet. And he was like, nah, he's past it now. He's not going to keep a clean sheet. And I thought he would have kept a clean sheet. I think we we won 3-1. So I lost the bet, but I remember him coming back, and I was buzzing that we'd got him back, because at the time I think our keepers were dropping like flies. I think Fabianski was out, Almunia was out. I think we even had Manoni start that season at some point. And yeah, we signed Lehman back to the end of the season, and he made his appearance. We won, and that was it. But
I know people always have a go at him about the Champions League final, but people forget that if it wasn't for his save against Raquelme, we wouldn't have even been in the final.
Yeah, it was instrumental. It was instrumental on the way up. It was, fantastic in the Invincible season. I remember I was looking at some highlights a while back before I started doing the 111, and I see the thing with Drogba where Drogba sort of went over, and then Lehman pushed him. Drogba went down. Drogba went into Lehman, and Lehman decided, I'm going to throw myself on the floor as well. It was just a nut job. It was brilliant.
Thing is, what makes you laugh there is you got Jens Lehmann and Drogba. You wouldn't want to pick a fight with them both, but you wouldn't mind in that scenario,
Exactly.
would you? I mean, they're falling over like flies.
Guys. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, has to be Lehman at goalkeeper.
Mate, I think it's a great shout. What formation have you gone with, mate?
I went with a 4-2-3-1, I believe. Yeah, 4-2-3-1.
So have you gone forward at the back? Start with your right back then. Who have you gone for at right back?
At right back, I've gone with Mr. Consistent. I've gone with Bakary Sagna.
Yeah, mate, that's a great shot. See, we haven't had him yet, believe it or not. We've not had Bakary Sagna.
The guys that have been on, who have you got before Sagna? You've got, Lee Dixon, Winterburn, Lauren. You've got some cracking players, but I didn't see anything. I mean, I could have put Dixon in, considering I saw him at the Invincibles versus the Legends versus the AC Milan game. But I was like, I can't pick anyone from that game, because that's a real cop out. I'll have Ray Parler in there,
have them all.
But yeah, Sagna, and for me again, it was a toss up between him and Bellerin. And I looked at some of the stats, and they're similar in quite a lot. But Bakary Sagna, in terms of clearances, interceptions, clean tackles, he was just so far ahead. And I know he's played a lot more games, but Hector, despite playing half the games, isn't anywhere near on the defensive side, and Hector's very good going forward, but so was Bakary Sagna. And we play having Sagna at that time, in that sort of the latter Arsene Wenger era, it was nice to have some sort of consistency within a back four, and he was always that. We had multiple different centre backs coming in and out, and there was always errors. But Bakary Sagna, you always knew if someone was coming down that flank, I think at least 8 times out of 10, there'd be some sort of stoppage. And he didn't score a lot of goals. He got a few assists, but I just remember him always being in the lineup. Probably one of the first names on the team sheet for Arsene Wenger, and he was solid throughout his, what was it, 8 or 9 years he was at the club.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think with Bakary Sagna, when he played a 7 out of 10, that was a bad game for him, wasn't it? He was so consistent, like exactly. You say. What did you make of when he left? Because I always thought it was a bit strange. We got in Debussy for 12 million, and it's just a strange one.
I didn't want him to leave. I think getting Debussy at the time was a bloody good signing. I thought he had a really good season at Newcastle. He was good in the French league beforehand. And I think it just broke into the France squad as well. And unfortunately, he had 2 injuries early on playing for us, and that was it. And Sagna, he did go on a free, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he went to Man City, didn't he?
Yeah, because I think he had just turned 30, and there's this stupid policy, probably by Gazidis, once a player's over 30, don't renew their contract for more than a year. Sagna could have easily had another 2 or 3 years and been decent, but we went with Debussy, and I think if you're getting in a player that's you're going to promise first team football for, you can't have 2 first team. You can't be promising first team to Sagna and Debussy. So I think we made a mistake. But had Debussy stayed fit, it probably would have been the right thing to do. But it's all ifs and buts, unfortunately.
Well, listen, my mum agrees with you. She's watching, and she says should have kept Sagna. She spelled it Sagan, but then she has corrected herself and then put Sagna in. So that's good, mate. She was. Do you know what? He was one of my mum's, or probably is one of my mum's favourites, Sagna. So that's a great shout, Steve.
Always for me as well.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up, Mr. Consistent. I think that's a great shout, to be fair. I do. Left back, mate. Who have you gone for over at left back?
Left back.
This must have been hard.
It wasn't as hard as I thought it would have been. Simply because I mean, I think everybody so far has put in Ashley Cole, right?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
I don't remember enough of Ashley Cole, nowhere near enough to put in Ashley Cole. So I've gone with Mr. Nacho.
Okay.
Eventually became a real steady Eddie. I've put down on my notes.
Yeah, that's true though. That's true.
When he came in, he was tossing up with against Kieran Gibbs, and I liked Gibbs, but Gibbs was always suspect if we were on the back foot. Going forward or defending when there's not a lot of pressure was always fairly decent, but on the back foot would get so flustered. But Nacho came in. Everyone was unsure. He's a nobody from Spain. He's not really done a lot out there. And I think the turning point for him was when he got made to play centre-back. He was dreadful at first, absolutely awful. And as soon as he went back to left-back, he's a changed player. Was going forward, getting assists, getting a goal. Obviously scored that goal in the FA Cup against United. And I think it was that season that was his real turning point. He was undroppable. I think, he then scored against City in the semi, I think the same year. Just became another. It was like signing another player. He had a terrible time at centre back. People were calling for his head, telling people wanted him out, and then turned like that, and then just steady at centre back in a back three when we decided to play back three. I think just versatile, steady. For me, it's him, Kolasinac, Gibbs, or Kieran Tierney, and I think for me, there's no one else that I could put in.
What about Gal Clichy? Did you see much of Clichy?
Yeah, and I mean he was decent.
What year, Steve, was it you started watching Arsenal? I should have said this at the start, really, shouldn't I?
Started watching Arsenal properly, I think around 2004. I mean, okay. I'd seen them as a kid, so late 90s, but I think around 2004, I took a fair bit of interest, and it was when I moved up to Sunderland because football mad up there, so there was always football on. There was a little pub down the road, so they always had football on. And I used to watch Arsenal Sunderland all the time, regardless if we could get it on. It was on the telly, we'd watch it. So around 2004, and then end of 2006, after the Champions League final, real buried my head in the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all did.
And then probably around 2010, 2011, I sort of got back into it a lot more. So yeah, Clichy, I saw a bit of Clichy, but he left and obviously went to City. I think when was it, 2008 or 2009?
Yeah, roughly about then. I can't even remember now.
Yeah, around then. So I didn't see a lot of him. I remember him being a good player, but I didn't like the fact that he went to City because he went to City.
Listen,
Nacho's went to City.
Yeah, they all did. I think everyone started didn't they?
Yeah, they all went.
Absolutely.
Sanyu even went to City. So, but yeah, I've put Nacho in at left back simply because my options are fairly slim. Shot. But he was a steady player in the latter era of Arsene Wenger.
Fair one. Jerome has commented and he says, Nacho, wow, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative or what, but if it's a negative, then... Well, if it's a negative, then we've summed up why Steve has not picked Cole or Clichy or the others. So I think your pick is probably the best out of the bunch because for me, I would have rather kept. I'd rather have kept Monreal still and got rid of Kolasinac personally. I'd rather have Monreal.
100%. And the fact that even when we've been light on options at centre back or our centre backs haven't been performing, play a back three and chuck him in. Yeah. Luckily Chambers has come in and cemented his place, but having a left back that's also able to play centre back, it's also good for the cup games because you don't have to then play Mustafi. You don't have to then play one of the Holding, Chambers or Socrates in the cup games. It would have made sense, but we sold him and that's it.
That's another story. Centre backs, mate. I'll let you pick whatever one you want to first. Who have you gone
Right.
for?
Well, I'll stick with the controversial calls first.
Go on, him.
And I'll go with Mertesacker as my first centre back.
Okay, go on.
And
Explain.
I think when he come in, there was a few signings that season, and it really sort of steadied a ship. We had, I think, the season before that, we had Vermaelen playing alongside Koscielny. Koscielny wasn't the player that he was towards the end. He was the player that he was towards the end. He was clumsy, all over the place, wasn't commanding, wasn't good in the air. And I think Mertesacker coming in and 100 cap German international, 6'5", lacked pace. Everyone knew he lacked pace, but what he lacked in pace, his understanding of the game and his positional awareness was second to none.
Yeah.
I think at the time, one of the best centre backs in the world at the time, and the fact that we got him for, I think it was around 20 million was an absolute steal. And from what I remember clearly, we had one good defensive season from what I remember from when I've been watching. So let's forget the 2006, but let's say from 2010 onwards, our only good defensive season in the last 9 years has been with Mertesacker and Koscielny at centre back, and they were outstanding that year. The fact that Chesney won joint Golden Glove, and everyone has their opinion on Chesney and how inconsistent he was, but to have everyone says as well at the moment, people that are picking on Leno, it's like, look at the defence that's in front of him. To get a keeper that's worse than Leno getting joint Golden Glove was down to Koscielny and Mertesacker, and I think he was commanding in the box, always picking players up around him. And I think what sums up Mertesacker was that final against Chelsea. Everyone wrote him off. We had no centre backs. We had Rob Holding, complete youngster, and Per Mertesacker, and everybody was shitting their pants. Everyone was like, "We're gonna get annihilated. We're gonna get absolutely screwed." And Mertesacker steps up.
He was
hasn't played a
man of the
game
match
all
by
season.
far, wasn't he?
Yeah, hadn't played a game all season, and it was like Tony Adams reincarnated. It was like he was outstanding, and his positivity on and off the pitch was always good to see. He'd always, he was good with the media, but he'd never shy away from any, if we'd had our asses handed to us. Oh, sorry, excuse the French. He'd never come up with an excuse first. He'd say what went wrong, and then would try and work on it and which is the go-to answer. But yeah, for me, for what he lacked in pace, he was a great player, and I think the fact that our defense has been so poor in the latter stages of Arsene Wenger's era, the signing of Mertesacker was a good one. And I think along with Nacho and Sanya, they're not even on the list of the best defenders this club has seen. But in the last 10 years, there's not many others you can put in.
Yeah, I think it's a great shout, mate. I think Mertesacker and Koscielny went 22 games unbeaten together that year you're talking about. So it's a great shout.
And lot of clean sheets that season as well. So, yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Who have you gone for alongside him then? Not one of those players we've mentioned.
The other side, I've gone with Sol Campbell, and he is a player that I do remember enough of. I remember that we had a guy in our class when I was in primary school, who was a Spurs fan, and he got ripped all over the whole Sol Campbell transfer. So I think for that alone, knowing that you've got a player that's ditched Spurs, come to Arsenal, won the league at Spurs, that deserves it in his own right. Doesn't he could have been the worst player, but but yeah, I remember I saw him play in the flesh. A cup game up in Sunderland when I moved up there, and I think it was 2005. And he was the only player. He was the only first team player that was in the lineup. I mean, that was a lineup that had Sebastian Larsson playing. You had Van Persie was just coming through at the time. He got a brace. I think Abue was playing. But Sol Campbell was in the middle of the defence, and I remember seeing that, and the friends that came and saw it, came up to Sunderland to see it with us. They were all surprised. They're like, oh, he's, why Sol playing? And I don't remember why, but he was fantastic. He's just an absolute man mountain, cracking at the back, and the fact that I got to see him live, and one of the only players out of the Invincibles, or would it be the only player? Apart from the Legends game, he's the only player that I've seen live from the Invincibles. I think it sort of sums it up himself. Everyone knows what Sol Campbell did, and obviously on the return, he had a couple of good games. Scored a cracking header against I think it was Galatasaray in the Champions League. I remember that. Because that was the first goal he scored for us since the Champions League final. I remember I was screaming at that at the TV. I think it's got to be Sol Campbell. Sol Campbell with Mertesacker is I'd say a fairly solid.
Yeah, it's rock solid, isn't it? Rock solid, mate. So you've gone for two in front. Who's your first one you've gone for in front? These are two very exciting players, I'd say. So who you gone for?
Yeah, first one in front, I'm going to go with Fabregas.
Cesc Fabregas.
I was gutted when he left.
Yeah,
I know he come out afterwards that he sort of forced the move and went on strike and everything else, but he was on another level. And to have a player that young, I don't remember seeing a lot of it, but I remember talking about the fact that we had such a good youngster playing with all those legends. It's just like, look at what he's going to be like in 4 or 5 years' time, and he just got better and better and better, and then went to Barcelona, and then declined a little bit. But even when he came back to Chelsea, the fact that we turned down a player of that quality,
I can't get over that.
For the excuse that we've already got Ozil, so Fabregas wasn't playing as a 10, so why not?
But, the worst excuse I've heard, man. Dreadful.
It was. But I remember the goal I do remember clearly was against Sunderland, and I remember I was fairly smug this going into school that week. Was the I don't know if you remember it, but the absolute fluke. He chased down a loose ball. The Sunderland defender didn't get to it, and it just went straight over Mignolet, and just completely mugged him off. And then I think he scored a couple against Sunderland at home the same seasons, and it was a couple of weeks later, and just smug as anything. I was just like, I'm living up there. I used to get a lot of stick because I was from down south. So whenever Arsenal played Sunderland, and always gave them a good idea, and I was always going into school pretty smug.
Absolutely, mate.
But he was just another level, and he was ended up being captain. Just fantastic player, and he did the hard graft as well. He would track back. He'd be tireless all over the pitch, and that's why he's in the midfield too. I haven't got a defensive midfielder as such, but
don't worry about that, mate. Go forward, mate. Go forward all the way.
Exactly.
Excellent. Who have you gone for alongside Cesc Fabregas? And if you haven't gone for a defensive midfielder, who is it?
Gone with Aaron Ramsey.
Aaron Ramsey. What did you make of it when he left before you start going into it? What did you make of it this season? Obviously, him leaving on a free.
I was not happy. Like Fabregas, two players that shouldn't have left, and they left at a very good time in their career. And I know Ramsey was very inconsistent at times, but when he played, people now they talk about what we miss without Xhaka in the team. That's nothing to what we missed without Ramsey in the team. Just those runs into the box, having because defenders used to mark Ramsey all day long. So as soon as he moved, the defender moved with him, which creates a space for the players around. Which is why in the season that we won the FA Cup, and the goals in the league alongside that, he was just unplayable, because if he stayed back, you knew that you would open up the space for Cazorla or Ozil to get it through to our wide men, that would get it through to Giroud, And a lot of that always stemmed from Ramsey, just his movement in the middle. And if he made a late run into the box, it would have been on the back of them saying, well, actually, Ramsey's staying still. He's making this late run. And they miss his late run because they think that Ramsey's going to draw the defender in to get it out wide. So just having him, watching him, what he was doing caused so many problems for the opposition defence that when he was playing well, he was almost unplayable at times. And the fact that he had a goal in him, look at the goal against, was it Fenerbahce or Galatasaray?
Oh, yeah.
Like, just, and that wasn't a fluke. That was, he watched that, waited for it to come down and just smacked it.
The goal against Norwich as well was great away. Do you remember that one?
Norwich was fantastic. Yeah. He has to be in there. Do
you have a bit more respect for him as well because of him, that massive leg break he had at 1920?
Yeah, when he first started coming through, I mean, he started coming through at the same sort of time as Jack Wilshere, and I never rated Ramsey. I was like, why is he playing? And then had the leg break, come back, and was a completely different player. But seeing the leg break, because I think it was 19 or 20. He was horrific. But to have the ability to come back after that and be twice the player you were before, I think you've got to give a lot of credit to him as a person. Knowing that you're out for so long, this could be the end of your career, but to work hard, and then come back. I think any player that does that deserves a lot of respect. And yeah, it's an absolute shame the way he left. He's down in folklore because of the FA Cup, the goals in the FA Cup finals.
I was just going to say that he loved the cup final, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's the sort of player. If he was invisible for 20 games of the season but showed up in the big games, which he did a lot of the time, then I'd much rather have 11 Ramseys and 11 Ozils.
Yeah,
you talk about what Ozil does bring, but doesn't bring in the big games. It's all about the big games. If the big games are the ones that are going to get you the points at the end of the season and get you the trophies at the end of the season, then that's what you want. And Ramsey had that.
Yeah, mate. I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree. I was a massive fan of Ramsey and a massive fan of Fabregas, mate. So I can't fault you for those picks. You've gone for a number 10, have you? Someone in front of him?
I have gone for number 10, and I've gone for two attacker midfielders either side. But my number 10 is Rosicky. Tomasz
Rosicky. I love Tomasz Rosicky, man. Massive fan.
I was a massive fan, and as soon as I got back, he was the player that I always loved watching. He would pick up the ball. He'd never look for a backward pass. He'd never look for a sideways pass. His first thought was drive at them, run at them. He had feet. For me, at the time, seeing players like Vieira and these big lumps of centre midfielders, to then go into these, players like Fabregas, players like Rosicky, who were just so silky on the ball, would just drive at players, turn a player, all this tiki-taka football started coming into play.
The little Mozart, wasn't it? That's what they called him.
Little Mozart. And I mean, on the subject of the tiki-taka, the goal he scored against Sunderland, absolutely fantastic. One of the best goals I've seen Arsenal score, along with that Wilshere goal. But the Tomasz Rosicky one never gets spoken about.
No,
it was almost identical to the Wilshere goal.
Yep.
And he just dinked it through. He scored that absolute banger against Liverpool in the FA Cup. I think he scored 2 against Liverpool in the FA Cup that game. I remember that early on, and I was such a big fan of Rosicky, and I think even now, just the fact that I'm glad he got the send off he did. I know my next player didn't quite get the send off. That would have been lovely. Just sublime to watch. Tomasz Rosicky and
also he always scored against Tottenham. Tomasz Rosicky scored against Tottenham.
That as well. I think I've got that on the notes, but I'm trying not to look at them. Yeah, goals against Tottenham, goals against Liverpool. Again, a big game player.
He was.
He was, and towards the latter stage of his career, he had a couple of really bad injuries, but he come back, and whenever he played, he was the same. Whether he was 33 or whether he was, younger, he would always be looking to drive the ball forward. And I think that's something we miss now. That's something we've missed in the last few years. So yeah, Thomas Rosicky is my number 10.
Great
And
shout.
to the right of him,
Go on. Who have you gone for?
to the right of him, I've gone with someone that could easily have gone in number 10, and I was going to put Rosicky on the right of him, but I've gone with Santi Cazorla at right attacking mid.
Oh man, I loved Santi Cazorla.
All about the attack. Again,
it really is, man.
Santi for me, I had him at 10. I had him in the deeper. I initially had Fabregas out wide, and I just thought I can't remember seeing Fabregas play sort of in the attack, like the top attacking
Wide
three.
areas. No,
I know he played 10 a couple of times, but yeah, Cazorla he come in a period like Mertesacker where I was just getting back into football. There was him, Podolski, Mertesacker, and I remember the first game I remember of that season was in the purple stripe. It might have even been the first. Was it the first game of the season against Liverpool?
I think so. Yeah.
It was early on that season because I was really buzzed for that season. We'd just made the signings, and I was looking forward to seeing the boys play, and just absolute rocket from the right, from the left to the right, and Pepe Reina couldn't stop it. Went straight up in the top corner, off the deflection. He was just fantastic. He would do the defensive work when he was him and Coquelin that season as a midfield 2 pivot. We haven't had that for years, and just the balance there was fantastic. Scored an absolute corker against United again in the stripy kit. Scored an absolute curler, and just would always be wanting to pick the ball up, drive it forward. He had know when to stop. He'd know when to pass. The free kick against Hull in the FA Cup final as well. As much as Ramsey was the hero of that game, if that free kick didn't go in, we didn't start the comeback.
Yeah,
I hold that goal more important in a sense. It doesn't quite make sense, but I hold that more important than the winner. Because I think we would have had Hull on penalties. I really do. But that was the one that got us back in it. And as soon as he lined up, I remember thinking, "This is going in. This is going in." And he just didn't even look at the ball. He just looked up, knew exactly where he was putting it, and yeah,
it's quite amazing his skill as well. Because I remember a few players being asked, who's the most skillful player? And at the time, we had Ozil, we had Sanchez, we had Ramsey, we had Wilshere. Everybody picked Santi Cazorla. Every single player.
Left and right-footed, could do it. Could do it. That's what the beauty of him was, because he could play anywhere in the midfield. And before he started getting on a bit, he would play out wide. He could play on the left. He could play on the right. He could play through the middle. He could play deeper. And to have that in your locker, to have both feet, it's just and look at him now. I mean, how old is he now? He's got to be at least 34. After having the infection, having the injury, being told that you'd probably never play again, to be smashing it and absolutely, he scored for Spain the other night. He's
unbelievable, isn't it? He's still playing for Spain.
Yeah, he's got back into the Spain side. He was fantastic against Barcelona a few weeks back. He still could have been at Arsenal.
What do you make of him coming out and saying that, though? Because he's come out now and said, hasn't he, that he wishes he would have said a proper goodbye. Do you think he'll ever come back or anything? Or
I don't think he'll come back.
No.
I think it's well too late. And even though he could be playing now, I think to bring in a player like that, whether it be in Jan or even at the end of the season, you're really limiting yourself in terms of what his gameplay, what his game time is going to be, because the Premier League is more physical than the Spanish league. But I think it's a shame he didn't get a send off, because I mean, Welbeck did his lap of honour. Was Cazorla there at the end of that season?
I think he did a lap of honour, but there was nothing really said about him leaving.
Yeah, there was nothing, because Rosicky had it. Rosicky had the sort of guard of honour. He come out. Cazorla didn't. But I think part of that is probably due to the fact that Rosicky did retire. Did he retire?
Yeah, he did.
He retired, but then he came out of retirement and I think played
for a bit, but then that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because Cazorla's a fan's favourite. I think everybody.
Yeah, everyone did.
Everybody holds him holds him in high regard. I
Yeah,
think for good
absolutely.
reason.
Too right. Steve, there's a few comments here. Karthik
Let's have a
says
look.
that Santi is the complete player in the Emirates era, so he agrees
I
that you've
think
put
I
him
think
in there.
so. Yeah,
Mm,
I think
mm,
I think him and Rosicky being very similar players, and Rosicky goes, in my opinion, quite underrated amongst the
mm.
fans, because he was there in that transitional phase, and he was there right up until pretty much the end of Arsene Wenger, and towards the
Yeah,
latter stage, he'd always come in at the cup games, he'd always come in the Champions League, and he'd always put in a performance. He rarely had a bad game, Rosicky, and Cazorla the same. But I think Cazorla, the fact that he was playing week in, week out, he was, he was there. Santi was a baller.
yeah. Jerome's commented Santi was a baller, and also Karthik's also mentioned something I had forgotten about, which is North London
Yes,
derby
with the
today.
women's.
So good luck to the girls today for that one.
Beth made hat trick.
Before we move. Absolutely. Before we move on to your last couple of players, Scunny Mike has just asked, where's Fergus? Is he in the background?
He's sat behind me.
He has given us control today, Scunny, which is amazing. Let's see how long that lasts. So, Steve, moving on to your last couple of players, you've gone for, is it wide left now or wide right?
Yeah, wide left.
Wide left. Go on then, go for it.
Gone with Aubameyang.
Oh, good shout, man! I love Aubameyang.
It is control. I know. Max made a comment earlier on, didn't he? He was like, Nelson off the right.
Reece Nelson, yeah.
But Aubameyang, and he plays on the left, and he shouldn't be playing on the left. But the fact that he has played on the left, and he's only been here season and a half, isn't it? It would be 2 seasons in Jan. I mean, I've been a fan of Aubameyang for years, and ask Fergus as well when you next chat with him. Him and Lacazette every season when we talk about transfers coming in, it would be Lacazette, Aubameyang, Bernd Leno, 3 players I was always wanting, and a lot of that came from FIFA. I always had them on my career team on FIFA, but just brilliant players. And Aubameyang showed it for years at Dortmund. He was very good at St. Etienne, and Lacazette was the same. But Aubameyang, he's just another level to what we've had for many years. He's not always in the game, but 9 times out of 10 he's there when you need him.
Absolutely.
And he's scored 50 league goals for us, or 50 goals in total. So to do that in 2 seasons is a feat in itself. Sanchez, I contemplated Sanchez for a moment, and then I thought, you know what? No. Sanchez would have been there had he left in a different manner, I think. But Aubameyang, just whether he's playing up top or whether he's playing wide, he knows where the goal is. The Spurs goal on the volley was another level. Just straight through, first, boom. And the angle that he was, that just shows his just unreal quality. I think if he was here longer, if he would have been here 2 or 3 seasons before, it could have been, we could be talking about a completely different Arsenal.
Yeah, I was going to say as well. Do you think if he was 23 years old and he's doing what he's doing now, do you think he could have competed with Wrighty, Henry, Bergkamp?
100%. People say about how players start to deteriorate in terms of their physicality and their overall presence in the game with age. He's 30 now, or pushing 30, and he's still competing with the best. And I think if we were in the Champions League, he'd be doing it there as well. Just a fantastic player, and he's great for the team. He's always did it with Lacazette, did it with Pepe. He's selfless, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's got the captaincy. I wouldn't have given the captaincy, but I think there's a few elements of his game and of him as a player around the dressing room, which is why he's got the captaincy. Him as a player on the pitch, not caps him. Everywhere else, I think he has the qualities to be a captain.
Okay.
And I say what I mean by that is the fact that he'll always look for another option, or he'll look to bring another player in, or he's never in it for himself. And I think that's a good thing for a captain. But he doesn't quite have the presence, or he won't command other players around him. He'll stay silent until it's like, okay, well, you have the ball, or I'm going to put you through, or try and look for another option. And that's the thing as well. You think the amount of times you squared it for somebody else, or has given up a penalty, he'd be on 60 goals easy already. So
Yeah.
that's even more impressive. And I think the fact that he stayed fairly fit, it's just a quality player. And I mean, there are a few that I could have gone, but the fact that I've gone for a 4-2-3-1 is the reason he's there, because he's played a lot on that left hand side in a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, he has. He has. Kartik also agrees and says that we would have won the league in 15-16. I think that was the year that Leicester won it, wasn't it? If we bought Aubameyang alongside Czech, when apparently no one was available.
Even Lacazette that season, he was available. And we didn't want to pay that, because I think that was the season that we could have got Lacazette for 35 million, but we were stumbling around 28.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And as good Arsenal as Welbeck did as our second striker, the fact that Giroud went for so long without scoring, that cost us, and Cazorla's injury.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Save the best till last, it seems, mate. Go on. Are you gone for up front?
For the king. I've gone for Thierry Henry.
How can you not, mate? How can you not?
Where do you start? All-time goal scorer, absolute legend, if not the first, if not the first name that I ever associate with Arsenal. I think him and Ian Wright around the same time, because I know Ian Wright from the fact that he was an Arsenal player, but also the Chicken Tonight advert. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
I feel like Chicken Tonight. So him and Henry as a kid, as I say, I used to play in the back garden with my brother, and one of us would be Henry, one of us would be Overmars or Vieira or Bergkamp, and so I always knew Henry. The whole Vavavoom advert as well. Just he was always there for me. And again, mentioning earlier on Sunderland, when I was living up there, he scored a brace. I think it was him. He scored a brace. Fabregas got the one. At the league game 2005, a couple of days after my birthday, because it was the week before my birthday. We went to the cup game, and it was the game after. So we played them twice in a couple of weeks, and we won both times 3-1. And a very, very smug Arsenal fan living in Sunderland.
Absolutely.
The return, the goal against Leeds.
Yep. That's behind me there. That was that one.
Yeah.
Picture behind me.
You can't really. It's hard to say. Yeah, you can't. What do you say about Henry that's not already been said, or people aren't expecting? It's just Henry, isn't he? Like, if he was to come back, as a manager or as a head coach, that would top it off, especially if he won something. Even if it was the Carling Cup or Carabao Cup, Monster Energy Cup, Nivea Men Cup, whatever it's going to be called when he eventually comes back. Because I think it's written for him or Vieira to come back. And if it's him, I think, yeah, even if there's bad results, because it's Henry, I think it'll get a pass, and it'll be like it will change, and there'll be such an optimistic outview should he come back.
Absolutely, man.
But as a player, just in the Premier League, I don't think there's been anyone better. People talk about Van Nistelrooy or Drogba. Go away. Not even fit enough to lace his boots. And like Aubameyang, played a lot out wide when he first came. And still scoring goals for fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, mate. I don't know how you can't leave him out. So well played for that one. So you're going for. I wanted to put this up as a whole, like I have with the others, but I've only got my laptop, so I can't put it on the share screen thing. Unfortunately, mate.
So just a recap, or
so a recap. Yeah. So you've got Jens Lehmann in goal, Bakary Sagna right back, Nacho Monreal at left back. You've gone for a centre back pairing of Sol Campbell and Mertesacker. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, you've gone for Ramsey and Fabregas with Cazorla out wide, Rosicky number 10, Aubameyang left, and Thierry Henry up front. Yeah. Is that right? Who would be your captain in that team, Steve?
Who would be my captain? It's a tough one. I'm going to be controversial, and I'm going to go Mertesacker. I'm going to go Mertesacker over Sol Campbell, Henry, and Fabregas. Simply because he's at the back. He's at the back. He's a big man. He can pull players around him. He can tell the players in front what's going on. And players like Ramsey and Fabregas in front are leaders in their own right anyway. But so I think to have it at the back, saying that, you've got Lemon in goal as well. So you've actually got a few good captains, but I'm gonna go with Mertesacker simply because he's a centre half, and leave Sol Campbell to do what Sol Campbell does, and have Mertesacker just stand at the back
Absolutely.
shouting.
Good man, Steve. We are being told off. Fergus has said that you can talk and that it's only going to be a 30-minute show, but
Hey,
we'll
there's
ignore
been a
that
few
because he's
already
not
that
on
have
here.
been 40, 45 minutes.
I think he's taking the mick, bless him.
Yeah.
Big Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much. Honestly, that's it's been great to hear some of your views in terms of a bit of a younger audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
that's it. And the fact that I dipped in and out as well, I missed a lot. You know, you got players like Eduardo, Abue. I mean, not that they would have got in anyway, but a lot of players that I didn't really even think about simply because they were only there when I was like, oh, I checked the BBC website and they'd scored or whatever.
of course.
But yeah,
Mate, I think that's a great 1 to 11. Jerome also agrees here. Look, he says not a bad 11. So I think you've done well, mate. Thank you very much. What are you off to do now? Are you off to watch England or not?
Probably the rugby. Probably watch Saracens.
Watch some rugby. All right, mate. Listen, you had. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks very much for your time, buddy. And I'm sure we'll catch up soon on another podcast soon.
Yeah, cheers.
Enjoy yourself. You have been listening to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. This has been Big Steve's 1 to 11. Be sure to catch up with us on next time on our podcast, or please, if you haven't done already, please spread the word. Join us on Guns and Yellow Ribbons on Facebook or Guns and Ribbons on Twitter. I've been your host, Dan Potts, and I've been with Big Steve. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.